I would say maybe 90% of the pictures that I took no longer exist. I'm grateful that I was able to capture like an era of nostalgia that we can relate to, our generation can relate to, and the future generations can appreciate because they'll never be able to understand what it meant.
But at the end of the day, it's all about, it's very democratic in that sense. People like it, they like it. You don't have to know why.
I mean, our ethos is this is what it's about. It's to highlight people who we don't know about, who are amazing. We have a community where we can kind of build them and bring them up.
I'm looking for someone who wants to be an actor, not someone who wants to be a social media. Because even in Hollywood, that doesn't work.
The more local, the more you can relate to. And it's authentic, it's original. The world has shifted in that sense.
Nothing's wrong with going against the grain and bringing something new. It's subjective. Hi, my name is Hatem Al-Aqil. Welcome to Gems of Arabia. Gems of Arabia is the place where we shed light on the hidden and the shimmering gems. It's my pleasure to present to you our esteemed guests today. With us, we have His Royal Highness Prince Sultan Alfaisal, filmmaker, designer, really someone who is shaping the Saudi landscape in a very authentic way. Lina who is a cultural consultant and also a filmmaker. Two really creative gems that are creating a whole new narrative in Saudi Arabia and beyond. It's my pleasure to present to you this special podcast in partnership with Haaretz. This is our second podcast in Saudi Arabia with Haaretz. First we did music and now we're doing film. And on fourth total, so we did fashion, we did art, and now we are doing music and film. And it is my pleasure from the Red Sea Film Festival to present to you our episode of Gems of Arabia. Stay tuned. We were talking yesterday about the importance of the craft and how it impacts us as viewers, or in your case, filmmakers. Movies that are produced in a beautiful way, that inspire us, that kind of lift the human spirit to the next level. Is this the movement now that's happening, or do you feel like it's been slightly swayed by social media and TikTok? Is it something that complements what's happening, or is it something that takes away from that perception and that narrative?
I don't think one takes away from the other. They're two different mediums. They're both visual, they're both, but I think with movies, it's always going to be there. It's the long form storytelling is always going to be there. Where TikTok, you just scroll through it, a movie you have to focus. And the whole cinema experience, I think, as well, is a big part of it. So I don't think one will take away from the other. Both can actually help each other in a way. Where something goes viral on TikTok, that's a reference to a movie that gets people to watch that movie, to understand what the reference is. Mm-hmm. And they also can work separately, where you don't need to watch the movie to understand the reference, to enjoy the TikTok, and you don't need to know the TikTok to enjoy the movie. So they help each other, but they're also separate. It's a weird sort of thing, but I enjoy both.
The process of TikTok is much easier. I mean, people get away with reaching more people for something that's much less pronounced and worked on. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't say it's easier, to be honest.
But don't they get away with creating simpler?
I mean, there are things where you're like, okay, why is this viral? Why is there 1 million likes? Why is that person? What is that person getting a lot of recognition for something that seems simple? But at the end of the day, it's all about, it's very democratic in that sense. People like it, they like it. You don't have to know why. Sometimes I look at something like, I really like this, I don't know why, but I really do. There's something about it. But with film, it's also, with TikTok, you can do it as a one person. With film, it's hundreds of people can be a part of it. So it's a very different, even though they're both video, but it's a very different process. So I can't compare them.
Maybe you're referring to like people's attention span. And even with myself, I feel like my attention span decreased recently. When it has to be a really good film or a really good documentary for me to not, divert into like touching my phone or, doing it needs to be exceptionally good compared to where it used to be back in the day. You didn't have any this form of distraction back in the day, and you would just sit and enjoy the film. Now I find myself on the phone, even though I'm a filmmaker and I want to appreciate, the craft that's been put into that film. But it does play a role in that sense, I feel. Even if it's a foreign film, sorry to cut you off. Of course, no. A foreign film adds more to that because there's subtitles, and people who are not used to foreign films, it's more of a challenge. Not only do you need the longer attention span, you need to be able to sit and read and understand and dive into that world. So it's an added layer.
Very seldom are we captured by one thing, and we can just sit there and watch it for hours on end. So exactly. It's a very true concept where there's constant distractions. So when we first discussed, we had a conversation where we were talking about how you started editing when you were in the beginning stages of your filmmaking. Those small edits that kind of led to an actual movie. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about how that process is? Because clearly your short versions are much more difficult to create versus when, for me, who's definitely not a filmmaker, I cannot visualize how much effort it takes to make something that's much shorter, of course. What's your process? How did that start?
I think initially it starts through music. It depends. Like when I'm in my car, I'm listening to songs, and sometimes when a song comes along, I start visualizing a story, a scene, something like that, and then it connects to something that I've seen before. When it comes to the edits that no one will ever see, when it comes to that, I sort of I can connect. I know the story of this video game or this kind of thing. I can cut it and have it fit this different story that is in my head through the song. So it's really, I can't say that there's a process to it. It just kind of pops into your head. I'm sure it's kind of the same with you when you have the story. It just keeps playing in your head so much that you have to get it out.
You don't have control over it. It channels through you, and if it's something that needs to, for me, I feel like if it's something that needs to come to life, it will haunt me. The idea will keep playing in my head. Personally, that's what happens to me with all my projects.
And I keep listening to the song over and over again.
It keeps resonating in your head.
I keep going back to the song, and it kind of develops more of the story, and I'm like, yeah. But then sometimes, if I listen to the song too much and the story is overdeveloped, it ruins the whole thing for me. Then I'm like, okay, I can't.
I just killed it.
Yeah, I just killed it for myself.
Your Jeddah Finds, how it evolved, how it started is groundbreaking. And it really has changed the narrative of how people look at Jeddah and put Jeddah on the map. Also, in addition to all the amazing, accolades that Jeddah has reached with artists, you're definitely one of those people who have kind of, put it on the map. So, how did it start?
First of all, thank you for appreciating it, because it's a very specific genre that I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, but that wasn't really the intention. What happened was
it's groundbreaking.
Thank you. It started, I would say, maybe almost like 18 years ago. Since high school, I remember I bought a digital camera, and I also had the film, the ones where you develop, and I love taking pictures. Photography is one of my many passions, and I would see things on the street, driving by, that caught my attention, and I would just document it. So I've been doing that since then, different mediums, whether it's an iPhone or my digital camera, like my Leica or whatever it is. I've been documenting a lot of, I'll tell you more about what it really is, but just that's how it started. So it's an accumulation of archives of specific genres of accidental street art.
And a lot of it is very nostalgic.
Yes, it's from all over Saudi. So it's not only Jeddah. I call it Jeddah Finds because it started in Jeddah, but ultimately it's called Saudi Finds. And the intention is to create, actually I'm working on a coffee table book. So it's also taking forever because I have so many photos, and going through the photos and deciding what actually gets printed is very difficult because I'm very indecisive. But
I think I have a few that I know will be there for sure.
Maybe. So it's a lot of the work is it's either things that I captured on the street, or there's me incorporated with I would actually pose in specific places, and it's all about the frame. There's different genres to it, and the beautiful thing about it, I don't know if it's beautiful, but the sad and beautiful thing about it is, I would say maybe 90% of the pictures that I took no longer exist. So I'm grateful that I was able to capture like an era of nostalgia that we can relate to, our generation can relate to, and the future generations can appreciate, because they'll never be able to understand what it meant. Yeah. And there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of like religious...
This narrative has completely changed now.
Yes,
there's a whole
everything.
preservation
So it's
historical sites.
Most of it is gone. And I'm sure like people from the new generation can look at it and not... I post a lot of it on a daily. If you follow me on my social media, I post a lot of on the go, it's ongoing. It's something I do even if I'm going to a dentist appointment. I'll find something that's Jeddah finds and I'll post it on my story. And a lot of people ask me, what does this mean? It's so random or it's so specific. And it's very hard for me to explain what it is. So hopefully by having the book and more artworks that I'm also participating in the upcoming Jeddah 2139. So it's gonna be under Jeddah Saudi finds. It's one genre of, I'm not gonna talk a lot about it. Don't want to ruin the surprise, but yeah. So I don't know what else to add. It's a world on its own.
There's a lot that you're, mashallah,
it's a world on its
you're
own.
Quite a creative multitasker, and keep going. It's incredible. We're talking about filmmaking also here. What was your latest project?
I think the latest thing that was that came out was Champions.
Yeah.
That was released last year. That
needs no introduction.
Hopefully, I mean,
such a funny movie.
I mean, you went in thinking it was going to be a depressing drama, but
I like genuinely thought I was going to be depressed, and it's very hard to make people laugh in films. I think it's one of the most difficult things you can do in film, and I was laughing the whole time.
There's a lot of things that I do that aren't public or that haven't been released or that we're working on. So hopefully that'll come out. But I think it's just at this point it's scouting and finding people to work with. That's where I'm focusing at the moment, because we have a lot of talented people here, and especially I've seen a few short films that actually one of them blew my mind.
Which one?
Yalla Yalla Bina.
Oh, Muhammad Hamad.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine. Very talented.
I met him months ago, and when I saw the short film, I went up to him like, okay, we need to talk. So I have things that are in development that we need to talk.
What did you like about it the most? What compelled you about it?
It was just, it was entertaining, to be honest. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, like almost all the short films that I've seen in that block, I've had to force myself to focus, to find entertainment value within it. Where this one, it just got me right away and I was just smiling the whole time. So that is something that I feel like we're missing, or we have been missing for a while, where I'm watching something because I feel like I have to, because it's Saudi. I feel like, don't you feel like sometimes because it's a Saudi movie, I have to watch it. But
there's also a famous, motto that you say that,
it's not really a motto, it's just something that I believe in, that I shouldn't have to watch a movie because it's Saudi. I want to watch a movie because it's good. Yeah. And that's how I want to come out with the things that I do. I don't want people to feel obliged to watch it because, hey, it's a Saudi movie, I want to show support or whatever. Yeah. Like, no, this looks like a good movie that I want to watch. So that's, I think, the time where people are banking on being a Saudi movie, I think is past now. I think now it's up to us filmmakers or entertainment is to actually draw people in, is to gain their trust, because Saudis lost trust in Saudi movies. Most of the time when I ask someone, forgetting my personal opinion, when I ask someone, did you watch this movie? I'm like, no, why would I go and see this story that I've seen 100 times? We've moved on from it. Someone goes to the cinema, it's 3 choices, maybe 4. This is a Hollywood movie, there's the Egyptian movie, on occasion the Bollywood movie, and there's the Saudi movie.
So we still lack credibility, you think? We still need more?
It's sort of, we need to gain the trust, because if you ask any Saudi, which one of these four would you watch first? The Hollywood movie, okay, that one you've seen. Which one? The Egyptian movie, you know, and okay, I'll see the Bollywood movie. The last one will be the Saudi movie. If you ask
Hopefully that
anyone.
will change
Hopefully, but
by
that's
time.
But that's due to.
I feel
think
it will.
it
with
will.
upcoming talent.
It's new to our landscape. It's nothing.
Actually,
something
Sultan
that,
and I are working on a
Oh yeah.
secret project.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're working on
We
a.
are.
Can we get a hint on?
It takes place in Saudi.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's a Saudi film.
Takes place in Saudi. I think that's the.
fantastic.
Yes.
You always like to kind of incorporate your heritage, but I would call you old souls, but progressive in your craft and the way you
I will
approach
always, unintentionally, I will always kind of incorporate my culture, because it's who I am, and as a creative, you kind of tend to, your soul or your identity will showcase in your work. So culture will always be a part of my work, whether it's film or whatever different medium I use.
And you always like to use nostalgia also.
Yeah.
You look back, even
In a positive way.
Yes.
I just have a certain appreciation for what would be known as nostalgia, because for me, time doesn't really exist in my world. So it's just things I'm familiar with that I can relate to.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, like I'm inspired by things happening today and in the past, and it's like a merge of
Yeah, and I
all
think
of that.
you know, especially with Saudi finds and the things that you've been working on, it's done really well. Not nostalgia bait, where we tend to fall into that a lot. Where it's like, okay, how can you make something nostalgic? Put an old TV, put the old, you know, the tune.
So it's not
the Saudi channel
cliche,
tune.
like more kind
I think
of
we've seen that way too many times.
We've seen that a lot.
That card has I physically I can't see that again, you know. And
Yeah, and it's just people keep going back to it. And I'm like, okay, so
that's-
what's
I mean,
I
this is
appreciate
today?
it.
That's what authenticity is about. I think it's about breaking the cliches and
Yeah.
showing things from a different perspective and changing perception. And you guys are, you know, at the forefront of that. You're taking the heritage, you're making it fresh. You're holding on to certain elements that are still there, but you're also making it, that word that you like to use as well, fresh. You know, it's,
Fresh.
Yeah.
the word of the week is
of the week, yeah.
fresh.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty much what, yeah. And I noticed you've also kind of like to kind of go back to certain photographic kind of
But the creepy
moments.
ones?
We have a lot in the way we, subhanAllah, I feel like in the way we kind of work, there's a lot, you also kind of incorporate nostalgia and like
Yeah,
culture
but I used to.
Even Garage, I think, is your fashion line. Garage has a bit
It's
of...
built off. It's built off of nostalgia.
has
but
a lot
of-
Yeah, but it's all about modernizing it rather
Yeah.
than kind of.
no, it's very,
Keeping
it
it
is,
Of course, but
You know,
I
it's
mean...
very much modernized. Like even with your last collection, you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
yeah.
Asiri sort
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
aesthetic, subliminally hidden. Like it's there, but you don't really see it. It's not very direct.
Absolutely,
which I appreciate.
you know, I'm noticing that a lot of the younger generation and what's on the pulse of pop culture is going back but modernizing it. And
Exactly.
You guys do it
It's
so
an
well.
art.
But
It's an
that's
art.
also-
you know?
That's an art in itself.
That's
yeah.
also everywhere. You look at it. You know, you look at Stranger Things. How those filmmakers.
Yeah.
So it's everyone goes back to what they grew up with. You
Yeah.
know, for example, things. Let's say there's a show we want to do. We'll set it in the '90s. And we'll reference things because that's what we grew up with. That's what we want to preserve but modernize.
Yeah.
If you look at Stranger Things, they brought a lot of things back. If you look at the Kate Bush song, Running Up That Hill, people forgot about it.
Yeah.
But because of one scene there, it became the biggest thing on the
But at
internet.
the same time, it's based in today's world. Like it's kind of, it has a mix. It is
It
based.
has modern filmmaking.
That's what I
It has
mean.
modern filmmaking, modern storytelling, but it has that back. Where I feel like a lot of times people go back with nostalgia and they go with the old kind of filmmaking techniques, and sort of it hasn't. You're not meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
You're just going back to pull people in, which could work, or you know, and a lot of times it's difficult to pull off when you're doing a drama. You know, as you can play with it much more when you're doing genre films, when you're doing sci-fi, when you're doing horror, you know, which is what I love. With Maskoon, what she did, she kind of set it fil balad, but it took the image of the balad and twisted it. You know, where you're kind of looking over your shoulder when you're walking around there. Well, maybe not recently, but in general.
البلد has always been kind of portrayed in a romantic kind of modern way. So the way we shot it gave it a completely different take, which was cool, which is, it was fun.
And I think going into people sometimes...
Out of the box.
Yeah. And people sometimes forget you can have more fun with it when you go into genre films. That's why I love horror, for example. You can tell profound stories with horror. It's not only blood and guts or jump scares or all that, you know, you have...
There's always a very
psychological thrillers that are...
There's always like a deep kind of...
There's a meaning.
There's always a meaning behind it.
You look at, for example, the movie The Babadook. It's about dealing with grief. You look at Hereditary. It's about passing on trauma to the next generation. What's the other? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's actually about animal cruelty. It wants you to be vegetarian. And if you watch the original, there's not much blood in it, actually. When you think about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you think about blood and chainsaw and all that, but there's not much blood in the movie. So there's a lot of these things when you watch them and you're like...
Have you ever seen the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, the original? Yeah. You know what's actually, you know how they filmed it?
Yeah.
So they had them, they literally would give them notes at the end of the day. They leave them packages at the end of the day with notes on how they should act in the second day and the day after.
It was very like organic. And
so literally they'd be like, oh, tomorrow.
Kind of thriller, reality TV kind of situation.
It's found footage. It's like they go, tomorrow you're angry at this person for this thing. So they have to act angry the whole time. And they improvise the whole thing.
I don't think they were actually like experienced actors.
They weren't. And I think a lot of them didn't actually kind of go on to be actors.
I think the budget of the film was like, I don't know, I think it was like $100,000 or $200,000. And it broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the highest grossing movie in that sense. It made, I don't remember, but it made...
In comparison with the
huge success.
I remember that movie, like I'm never scared of horror, like ever.
And you never see The Witch?
That's what's so scary about it, is you never see blood or anyone dying, you don't see the witch, it's
atmosphere.
It's the atmosphere, like that movie haunted me for a long time when I was in like middle school.
You know what movie haunted me? Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
That one.
We need to rewatch that.
Yeah, we need to watch it. It's like a B movie from the 80s.
That was a good one.
It's funny, but as a kid watching that.
So maybe reality TV, or from a horror perspective, would be something that you would be interested in.
I think that's been done. That's been the idea of found footage is actually very hard to do now, to do it right, because a lot of people tried that.
You can make a Saudi version of that.
Yeah, but then it's just gonna be a Blair Witch ripoff. How can you do it and not be a Blair Witch ripoff?
That's what's the kind of the obstacle these days, is because so many experimental concepts have been done. So you need to kind of to be original in this world today. It's not as easy.
But it's also sometimes when people try to be original.
No, not being. But I feel like just being in Saudi and telling Saudi stories.
There's an originality.
That in itself is, we have so many stories we need to tell. I personally have a lot of stories that I want to tell, especially growing up in Saudi as a Saudi female, and obviously I had exposure to the same outlets that the world had. TV, news, newspapers, magazines. And I would see like the way we were portrayed in the outside world, and nothing frustrated me more. Until today, you have people who view you in a specific way. And I never had an outlet to say, no, but that doesn't represent me, that's not true. There was always this narrative that was on loop.
Yeah, it's like they look at you like, oh, no, you don't know better. We'll
today,
tell you.
I've had arguments with people in today's world where they actually tell me that, no, you're oppressed, you just don't know. I'm like, but I'm not. I'm living my best life and I'm expressing myself. I'm actually doing this to show, actually I'm not. I'm doing it to express myself, but an added value is to actually kind of portray the truth, to the world. That's not the intention, but it's part of it. I'm not gonna lie, it's a part of it because of that frustration, I would say.
And one of the important things, you can draw them in. That's the important thing. You have to draw them in by entertaining them.
Yeah.
Bring them with the entertainment value, and that message will automatically go. They'll start understanding more. But a lot of times if you try to be a bit too raw without the entertainment value, it just becomes...
And good execution as well.
Yeah, that's a part of entertainment.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of filmmakers and you know, people who are kind of, you know, laid the new perspective of filmmaking, someone been hanging out with Guy Ritchie, huh?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. No, Guy Ritchie to me is one of the top filmmakers, one of sort of my filmmaking idols, and I love all his movies. You know, watching Lock, Stock, Snatch when I was like just at the end of high school.
Yeah.
Layer Cake, just all, Rock and Roller, Revolver, The Gentleman, you know,
classics.
all these.
They're
literally every one of his movies are classics. So being able to have that.
He had the recent one that I really enjoyed.
The Gentleman?
The one before that.
The one with Jason Statham.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with the amount of movies that I've seen.
So it's just having that one-on-one. It was 5 of us, but I ended up speaking the most.
And what do you talk about?
Just, I paid attention to a lot of his interviews, his podcasts, sort of his appearances on podcasts or something like that. There's certain things that kind of caught up to me. It's sort of his writing style, where how he started writing his own stuff, where he was working with writers, just specific things. Actually, one of the funny things is that one of my short films was inspired by a scene from his film.
Nice.
So Man from U.N.C.L.E., there's the interrogation scene.
That's the movie I was referring to.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. Oh no, that came out 2015.
Yeah.
So there was an interrogation torture scene that happened that sort of, I loved the execution of it, how he used the music, the aesthetic and all that. And I was thinking, this was when I was in film school, I wanted to do something like that, with the same sort of, with the reveals, with how he used the music and everything. So I've written a short film based on an interrogation scene. But then with rewrites, it became something different. Then it became O2, this
That's
sort of
usually what
sci-fi,
happens.
this post-apocalyptic sci-fi.
That always happens. You start with an idea and then it kind of dilutes into like a completely different, not really, but like to that.
It becomes something, it becomes its own thing, which is...
and that's the beauty is in the process.
Yeah, you start here and you end up somewhere completely different. So that was one of the things that I discussed with him, actually, that was interesting. And I think he...
Was this his first time in KSA?
I think so, yeah. I think so. And this was in Al-Ula. He did the whole tour and then he kind of met us.
Okay.
And he told me a lot of things about, you know, how he views the filmmaking world sort of outside filmmaking, sort of the unpleasant stuff that I agree with him on. But
the real stuff.
That's for off camera, because there was a lot of swearing in that one. But it is something that I did say. I remember there's something that everybody deserves a right to tell their story, but no one deserves a right to an audience. You know, and he turns to me and like, and no one cares about your story too. So he said that in a way where it's like, no one cares about your story because you have to make them care. Not like no one cares about you, but it's like, you can tell your story, but no one cares that you're telling your story. You need to make them care. You need to entertain them. If you don't entertain them, if you don't bring them to the scene, then your story doesn't matter. And it goes back to this theory or essay, I think, by a French critic in the 1960s. It's called Death of the Author, where intention of a filmmaker or attention of an artist is irrelevant. It's what the audience takes from it, what the viewer takes from it. So at the end of the day, you have to put in consideration what the viewer takes out of it. And a piece of art, in a way, without an audience, is irrelevant in that sense. I think that was the theory. And I believe in that theory. You know, I believe, for me, for piece of art to be complete, it has to have an audience.
So it won't create, unless it creates impact, it doesn't...
Not necessarily impact. It will create impact, but unless it has an audience.
You have a message, obviously.
Yeah.
You express yourself creatively, but then every person, including myself, when I watch that piece of art,
you get something.
I resonate with it in a different way than the next person.
Exactly. It's very subjective.
It is to an extent. It's not really a theory. It's kind of factual.
But it's like it was sort of that idea. But yeah, you know, to me,
so having an audience is important.
It's it completes the piece of
To
art.
validate it.
It completes it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily validates it.
It's
it
a part of
completes
the
it.
puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm sure you've had, by the time something's ready to be released, you hate it.
Oh, of course.
So I can't watch anything
Please
I've
don't
done.
watch mine. It's like
I kind of want to tell people don't watch it
everyone
because
wants
it's really
to
bad.
like, Lina, where can I get tickets? I'm like, they're sold out. Yeah, please, please don't watch my film. That's like, it becomes like there's that feeling. Obviously, there's, I don't know what you call it when.
It's sort of like I start watching and I'm like,
I'm
not really a filmmaker.
I don't think I love
I'm
it.
terrible.
You know, I have this.
The writing is terrible. The
imposter
editing is
syndrome?
terrible. I think imposter syndrome is something that I feel every
Yeah.
time I'm
Yes.
not doing. Okay. In between projects,
Yes.
it's imposter syndrome the whole time.
I have this thing where I want to watch movies that I know are so good. I'm not going to take any chances on this afternoon. I want to watch something that's going to move me, it's going to give me the butterflies, and I'm going to be like all into it. And there's certain movies where I watch over and over again, I still kind of get in that zone, you know? So I watch movies over and over again. Is that crazy? Or
No.
it's
If you
not.
like a movie, you can
Yeah.
end up watching it. But also,
do you guys do that too?
I do that, but I also watch a lot of bad movies on purpose because I'll find something that I like about it.
Okay.
Where I'm not too bothered about critical sort of things. Where if something if a concept interests me, if something interests me, I'll watch it,
Yeah.
and I'll find something in it that I like that'll make me want to rewatch it. You know, and I think that also comes from watching a lot of horror movies growing up. There's a lot of bad ones, but all the bad ones have redeeming quality because there's a certain honesty in creating horror movies. You know, no one wants to create a bad horror movie, so everyone has, in a way, pure intentions to scare people. So it's that, you know, so I end up watching a lot of movies, whether
It's like research for you. Yeah.
in a way but it's also like, you know, there's hundreds of
Enjoyment.
people, like either tens or hundreds of people that worked on this hour and a half. So I can't dismiss any work, you know, or give, but also it's a weird thing where I have that, but also I want a
feel
film to draw me in as well.
When you study film and you work in film and you understand what happens behind the scenes, there's always that part always comes in with watching a film. I don't know, for me, I think about all these layers.
I can switch off. For example,
Sometimes.
yeah, I can switch off and I can watch it, but then if I want to analyze it, but sometimes something catches my eye, I'm like, I want to know how they did that, and I start thinking about it. But there was a weird thing where as soon as I came back, whenever I watch a movie, so what do you think? So I'm like, I didn't go in to analyze it. You know, I went in to enjoy it.
Just to enjoy
you
it,
know,
yeah.
but I have
That's
to
always
think
the
about
intention.
it.
The intention to watch the movie
Exactly,
is to enjoy
it's to enjoy it. But
yeah.
if I want to analyze it, I can look into it further and have to watch it again with that mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I have to actually switch my mindset.
Yeah.
But sometimes a moment or a piece of effect
If the movie is that good,
I'm like,
it
oh
will
my God, I wanna watch it.
automatically.
Yeah.
When we watched Nope,
Oh, Nope. Yeah. Nope.
even though a lot of people disagree, for some reason it didn't really kind of appeal to
It
the
wasn't Get
masses.
Out. It wasn't Us. It didn't have
I
that
thought it was
sort
a
of-
masterpiece. Like,
Yeah, I
enjoyed
loved that. Visually, just the whole thing.
It's interesting to have like specific, for me what attracts me is I can't think of names. I'm not the movie buff that you guys are, but I know that sometimes you think of a movie, a genre that you don't like, and then you really end up, you're like, no, I don't want to watch it. And then you watch it and you love it, and completely different, you're introduced to a whole new genre of movies. You know? So once a movie is well executed, once the storyline
I think
is
that
kind of-
happens a lot with foreign movies. For
Yeah.
people. Where they're like, oh, I don't want to watch something with
Absolutely.
subtitles, but then they watch them like, holy
Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree with you more on that. So, what's next for Lina?
A lot. I'm working on a lot of projects in parallel to each other.
Yeah.
I currently, actually, this week I shot a documentary for Balad Beast.
Oh, wow.
There was a music festival that happened in Al Balad, the historic town of my city,
Yeah.
which I have a lot of memories with that place growing up, and I had a lot of projects that I incorporate Al Balad with. I know a lot of people have seen it over and over again, but having one of my passions is also music. I love music. I love hip hop, and when I heard that
You had Balad Beast.
Balad
this
Beast.
time was fantastic.
So when I heard that a lot of my favorite artists were playing local and international, the contrast of having that for the first time, happening in Al Balad, something I needed to document. So I did that alongside one of my really good friends, David Dark, who's also Oscar-nominated documentarian. So we're actually working on editing that as we speak, which is great. It was a very inspiring project. You know, just talking to the artists backstage, the local artists, everything they said was just so inspiring, very poetic. And I did it for that. I just felt that needed to be captured on record. So that's something I'm working on currently.
We can't
I'm working
wait.
with Sultan on a feature.
Yes.
We can't wait.
The Saudi feature.
Yeah.
And these are the things that I'm passionate about, right? I wake up every day and I have a different idea. Always, you know, I'm passionate about so many things. So I'm trying to like do as much as I can. But yeah, aside from that, I have Clay Models, which is a local modeling agency that I co-founded with one of my really good friends, Farah Hamad. And that keeps me busy as well, scouting and running, you know, that business as well. Alongside many different projects, it's boring. I'm not going to sit and list all the things that I'm doing, but this is some of the stuff.
Well, congratulations also on Clay Models.
Thank
it seems
you.
to be really taking off. It's mashallah.
It's much needed.
Yeah.
I've had the database for years. I've been in the industry since, you know, since it's been more than 12, 14 years. And I needed models.
Did a photo shoot together in the
Exactly.
You know,
I actually worked with you, I don't know, 7 years ago or something for your designs.
Yeah.
So I did have a database of models that I scouted, me and my friends would scout. It was on this like PowerPoint presentation. Always went back to it, always scouting for new models. And it was very difficult to find local talents. So the idea came about and there was a market gap for it. And this can be a episode on its own. But yeah, it's great. It's
Definitely,
great.
and then when you have international brands or international publications that come, they want a curation from a local entity that understands
all the international magazines,
that has lived the culture itself.
All the luxury brands,
Yeah.
for the longest time, used international models to attract the Arab world.
Yeah.
But that I feel like now that doesn't really apply as much as it used to. People want to relate to the brand, and I think brands realize that. That's why they were using a lot of social media figures as well as models. You need faces that we can relate to. And the more local, the more you can relate to. And it's authentic, it's original, it's more relatable. The world has shifted in that sense.
It's much more credible also,
Yes,
because it's
more
like,
credible.
it makes more sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm very, very impressed by what you've been doing with Garage and how you create a movement. It's not just creating a collection, you're creating a whole movement. It's a whole new system that you're introducing to the market, and hats off, you know. What's next? Can't wait to see what you have.
In terms of film, of course, there's the project that Lina and I are working with David, with Nahar Al-Hamrani, who's the producer and partner at Al-Maha. Also currently, hopefully going to be shooting a short film.
Is this the one I'm going to be in?
No, that was the other one. This is.
I'm going to star in one of his.
She's going to be one of the.
Don't say anything.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, but okay.
It's quite the collaborative.
Yeah.
So being involved in the projects, it just seemed natural.
It makes. By the way,
it makes perfect sense, actually.
Even the film we're working on happened without.
It's like she wasn't part of the initial introduction to us being a part of it.
I was introduced by.
And then I'm looking at the deck. I'm like,
Sultan's gonna be on it. I mean, we've always wanted to work together, but without
it being forced.
Yeah.
So so there's a short film co-written by a very talented writer, Sara Al-Bin Ali. She's as twisted as I am in terms of loving horror movies, maybe even more so.
The best people.
Exactly, maybe
Best
even more
people.
so. So sometimes she writes something like,
Sara, we
this
need
is
to
a
be
little
friends.
too much. There's
We need to also have her on the show.
Yeah.
Inshallah, yeah. And I'll tell you, you know her from another industry. So, but that's, I'm sure she'd want to say that herself. We were also co-writing a feature film as well. Developing a show.
You guys are busy, huh?
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah, and just sort of keeping our ear to the ground for different projects that are coming. We're trying to bring in just the new generation of filmmakers, sort of bring in new people, new faces, sort of flood the market with talent in terms of actors, in terms of crew.
This is what we want to do with
her
our film as well.
Yeah, so for one of the things that we're doing, we're at least wanting to do, is discover new talent in terms of actors.
Building more community as well.
But also
creatives.
create new stars, new faces,
Fantastic.
to give sort of new dimension to that.
Yeah, shed light on the undiscovered, brilliant
Exactly.
creatives.
Yeah.
It's all about, you are nothing without,
the community.
the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like our friend Saud would say, is community is king. It really is.
Turkey. So
it's very important to have support from, whether it's your fellow creative colleagues or audience. It's very important, to support, because we're all doing this, for the...
And we're building it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been built yet,
Yeah.
so we're building it. So we have to build it together. And
I mean, our ethos is this is what it's about. It's to highlight people who we don't know about, who are amazing, who may not have the PR or the capital to show themselves, and we have a community where we can kind of build them and bring them up,
Exactly. And I think there's one thing that I think I'm looking for specifically in terms of actors. I'm looking for someone who wants to be an actor, not someone who wants to be a social media influencer and do acting on the side, because even in Hollywood that doesn't work.
Gotcha.
So
That's a very good point.
yeah, someone who cares about the craft,
Yeah.
someone who wants to be an actor. Fame is a side effect of it.
It happens by
It
default.
happens exactly, and but when
Someone whose work speaks louder
exactly,
than
so
their voice.
that's
Another
that's
thing that we've
what
discussed.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Other than that, in terms of Geleg, Geleg's been going well. We have new collections coming out, and we just kind of just keep going. And we've had new exposure to to different local communities at the moment with Geleg Garage through that. As you know, the skate community and all these. So they've opened our eyes to a whole new perspective. So people who've been overlooked in terms of just a subculture or like just because
It's very indicative of building a community.
exactly. So it's everything is moving. There's a lot of things catering to a lot of people, but there's a huge segment that they don't want to be a part of that in a way. They're like, we have our own thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's see how we can support and do that and kind of help build them up in a way they can be independent of us.
Yeah.
Not they don't have to rely on Geleg, where it's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna help you grow to a point where you guys can go on your own, which I think a lot of times it's not the case.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just kind of doing it. Like I have no plan. If you ask me what my plan with it is, we're planning things that we're developing, but like a bigger plan on what Geleg's gonna be. We're kind of playing it by ear. I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for Lina, but for myself, I don't like to be in the public eye. I don't like to kind of market myself. So I want to bring as many people there to put them between me and the public eye. So they can, if I bring in enough people, I don't have to be out there. So I think that's a part of it.
And your work also speaks for itself,
Yeah, I try to put everything out there where I don't have to explain it.
I'm gonna add that I genuinely don't really enjoy being in the public eye, and I never had a public account up until maybe 2 years ago. I've always been very private. I still am very private. Whatever people see on my social media it's not even 2% of my life. And you'll never see me, I'm not an influencer. I don't sit and I talk and I don't share that part of my life. It's never personal. What I share, it's like a portfolio. My account is a portfolio. So I actually choose what the world sees, and I share things that inspire me, whether it's music or art or film or whatever it defines. I like sharing parts of me. I might seem like I'm a public figure, but I'm actually not. And part of it is because I am a Saudi female, and I want to represent that. I want to show
And you do it beautifully, mashallah.
Thank you.
To be honest, we are in industries where you have to market yourself.
Yeah.
So
So
I think you probably figured that out a
but
bit better
very
than me.
subtly, like I can, if I wanted to show my life, like that's a completely different route. That's not my
Oh, yeah,
intention. Really not my intention. It's just showing, I like to share, like I genuinely inspired, and I like to share things and things that I accomplished.
I really think that both of you are marketing visionaries.
I mean, if you ask my DM requests, it wouldn't be, considering people are very disturbed by the creepy photos that I put up at the end of the night.
I'm a fan. He loves to post the
like
scariest,
really creepy
posts at 12 a.m.
Normally at midnight.
1 a.m.
I have like a whole gallery.
Well, you're a horror movie fan. You know?
I am, but
goes with your
an
aesthetic.
exercise into seeing how I can get people to actively unfollow my account. But people, at first I used to get a lot of, like, not insults, but more like sort of negative commentary on.
You've seen them, right?
Yeah. But then people started actually enjoying them. And then when I don't post one in like a week, they're like, "Where's the creepy photo?" I'm like, "I'm ran out. I need to find new ones."
Nothing's wrong with going against the grain and bringing something new and authentic and it's subjective.
It's all about the authenticity.
Exactly, and that's the word that we're going to be closing with. Tell me, Lina, what's authenticity to you?
I guess it's a relative concept.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's not something that I do. It has to be. I feel like it has to be naturally a part of who you are. It's a given. I guess if I had to describe it, it would be one of my core values of who I actually am. It's by, just following your gut and being who you are. Naturally being who you are, and following that sound, that internal sound, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone, and if it makes sense to you, you follow that and you go with that and you express yourself in that way, and to always be yourself, and I don't know, I guess there's a lot to what it could mean, but I feel this is mainly what it is.
Completely agree. Sultan?
You sure want me to answer that one? No. No, but I think we've mentioned this before, is I think the key to authenticity is to avoid networking events. That's the key.
Pros and cons to that one.
I only see the cons.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah. But for me, it's just it's a balance of not caring what people think in that sense, but also
being true to yourself.
Being true to yourself, but also it's a balance with that and not being insulting to other people, because like sometimes you have to find that balance. But it's within our culture that you have to respect everybody. I think to be authentic is to be respectful to everybody at the end of the day, and them being respectful to you. Because once you have that, you can be your true self. If you're disrespectful, then that's a completely
I think open to. Sorry, I cut you off. I would like to share your thought, your sentiment. I think being open to different perspectives without judging, and even if that journey of that person is not a journey that you agree with, maybe get on that journey for a bit and try to see where they are mentally, emotionally, where they are. And this is over the years. What you said resonates with me a lot, because over the years I've realized that we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes as well.
That's very important.
To appreciate.
But also, we need to be okay with saying, hey, listen, we're not going to agree. We're never going to agree.
That too.
And that's fine.
Agree to disagree as well. Yeah.
That's fine. You can not agree with someone and just leave it at that. But we're in a very different world right now.
So no, I really appreciate you coming today. Thank you for your time. I've been admirers of both your work for quite some time now, and so happy that we actually got to connect. And have this long, I've been asking both of you for quite some time now, long-awaited opportunity to have you on this podcast. I'm extremely proud of you both, and thank you so much for being part of this podcast. You are indeed gems. So
thank you Hatem. I'm really genuinely a huge fan of everything that you do.
Thank you.
I appreciate you and everything that you've done.
Likewise.
Thank you for having me and Sultan. I hope we didn't talk a lot.
No, not at all. That's the whole point of a podcast. Yeah. Absolutely.
And thank you.
All
Thank you.
substance, so much
Thank
substance
you.
coming from both
You
of
are
you.
the ultimate Saudi gem. والله.
But thank you for
Thank
having us, seriously. And over the past couple of years since I've known you, I've seen you do a lot for different communities here. So
Yeah. Thank
it's
you for
really
shedding
appreciated.
light on all this talent. If anything, you should be sitting here. You.
Who's going to interview you?
Yes, you
You're
need
very
some. Next episode.
You're
next
very
episode,
kind.
I'm gonna interview Hatem because he is.
Get all the tough questions.
Yes.
You're very kind. No, I
People
mean,
need
listen.
to listen to your story because you are very inspiring and
Thank you very much. We're
And
all a community.
what you do
and
is very beautiful.
Islami. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I would say maybe 90% of the pictures that I took no longer exist. I'm grateful that I was able to capture like an era of nostalgia that we can relate to, our generation can relate to, and the future generations can appreciate because they'll never be able to understand what it meant.
But at the end of the day, it's all about, it's very democratic in that sense. People like it, they like it. You don't have to know why.
I mean, our ethos is this is what it's about. It's to highlight people who we don't know about, who are amazing. We have a community where we can kind of build them and bring them up.
I'm looking for someone who wants to be an actor, not someone who wants to be a social media. Because even in Hollywood, that doesn't work.
The more local, the more you can relate to. And it's authentic, it's original. The world has shifted in that sense.
Nothing's wrong with going against the grain and bringing something new. It's subjective.